Everyone says they want the truth, but few can handle what it actually looks like. Because most people don't wear their real face, they wear what gets them fed, what earns applause, what hides their resentment. But Machiavelli knew something brutal. True intentions are never revealed by words, only by pressure, silence, and power shifts. If you want to stop being lied to, used, or manipulated, don't confront them. Test them, quietly, surgically, and watch as they expose themselves, one reaction at a time. Most people walk into your life already rehearsing. Their smile is a tool, their empathy, a costume. They mimic sincerity like a script they've memorized, not because they're evil, but because it works. You trust people who show warmth. You drop your guard when someone agrees with you. You assume shared pain means shared values, but the Machiavellian sees deeper. He knows the face people wear in public is the most carefully curated lie they will ever perform. And that lie is designed for a single purpose: access to your time, your loyalty, your resources, your validation. But here's the catch: no one can hold a mask forever. Over time, even the most convincing performance begins to crack. The laugh becomes hollow, the timing off, the words repeated. Real intention always leaks, not in what they say, but in what they do when they think it won't cost them. The way they respond to silence, the way they squint when you succeed, the way they react when you say no. These are the places the truth slips through, unguarded, unfiltered, and completely damning. And yet, most people never notice, because they're distracted by the performance. They mistake flattery for affection, proximity for loyalty, agreement for honesty. So they let these masks into their inner circle, into their homes, into their secrets, and one day wake up gutted, betrayed, used. But betrayal doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes from a mask you were too afraid to test, a smile you didn't interrogate, a silence you didn't trust. Machiavelli didn't believe in words. He believed in patterns. Power reveals, pressure reveals, withdrawal reveals. So if you want to know who someone really is, you don't ask, you observe. You test, quietly, repeatedly, coldly. Because the moment someone thinks they've fooled you, they get sloppy. They reveal what they're really after. And once you see it, you'll never unsee it again. This is how you learn to see through people without ever letting them know you're watching. This is how you stop being their prey. Intentions are the currency of the manipulator, because they cost nothing to say, but buy everything when believed. Most people are seduced by language. They think if someone says the right thing, they mean it. If someone apologizes, they must be sorry. If someone compliments them, it must be sincere. But this is how the clever gain ground. They don't overpower you, they align with you. They mimic your values. They mirror your pain. They offer words as proof of loyalty, affection, or integrity. And it works because you were taught to believe in the kindness of language. But Machiavelli never trusted language. He trusted outcomes. He watched what people repeated when no one was watching. He measured not what they said in the glow of attention, but what they did in silence, under pressure, or when the room shifted. Real intention is behavioral, not verbal. If someone says they respect you, but consistently talk over you, interrupt you, ignore your boundaries, then their actions are louder than their performance. If someone says they want peace, but somehow always incites drama, they've already chosen chaos. If someone swears they love you, but only show up when it's convenient or when they need something, they don't love, they depend. The clever ones know how to package their selfishness in the right phrases. They know how to script their apology. They know how to tell a story that makes them the victim. And if you're still chasing their words, you'll miss the structure of their pattern. Machiavellian clarity begins the moment you stop being impressed by talk. When someone speaks, you don't nod, you watch, you slow down. You run a delay between what they say and what you respond to, because every manipulator hopes for one thing: that you react quickly, that your need for reassurance overrides your logic, that your hunger for hope blinds you to evidence. But if you delay, if you resist the emotional bait, their pattern emerges, and no manipulator can outtalk the weight of their own consistency. That is what unmasks them. Not confrontation, not accusation, but stillness, calculation, observation. You don't need to challenge their words, you let them stack up. Let them pile lie over lie, contradiction over contradiction, until the mask can no longer hold its own weight. Intentions are not what people claim, they are what people repeat, what they protect, what they prioritize. And once you begin to track those things, you start to see the quiet machinery of truth. You don't need to accuse anyone, you just need to watch long enough to let them do it themselves. Silence is not absence, it is a mirror. The first Machiavellian test is the removal of noise, praise, and attention. You say less, you offer nothing, you stop reaching out, and you wait. Because what someone does in your silence is a direct reflection of what they were in your presence. The mask is fed by validation. It thrives on your need to stay connected, to be liked, to keep the peace. But the moment you withdraw that energy, the illusion starts to fracture. Some will grow cold, others will grow angry. A few will disappear entirely, not because they were hurt, but because they were exposed. They were never there for you. They were there for the supply, the warmth, the usefulness, and without it, you are nothing to them. This is the test. Most people are too afraid to use because silence triggers the fear of abandonment. But Machiavelli understood the power of restraint. He knew that by doing less, you learn more. That silence is not a weakness, it is a weapon. It forces others to act without your influence. It strips away performance and demands instinct. People reveal their true priorities when you stop reminding them to remember you. Watch what fades when you stop reaching. Watch who becomes bitter when you no longer flatter. Watch who tries to guilt you, who accuses you of being cold, who suddenly turns the blame on you for simply pausing. That's the confession. That's the reaction you were waiting for. Because real allies understand silence. They don't need to be fed to remain loyal. But users, opportunists, and emotional addicts begin to decay the moment the spotlight shifts. They squirm in the stillness. They need you to speak so they can shape their response. But in your silence, they are left with themselves, and that's when the mask slips. They might lash out, they might ghost you, they might beg. Each reaction reveals a different truth. Some people panic because they fear losing control. Others vanish because the performance no longer benefits them. Either way, you've learned something, and you learned it without a word. The smartest people do not interrogate their enemies. They starve them. They create just enough distance to see what tries to close the gap and what lets it widen. And when you do this long enough, you start to understand who is there because of you and who is only there because of what you give. Never beg for truth. Never chase it. Starve the performance and let the actor decide whether to remain or vanish. That is the gift of silence. It is not passive. It is surgical, and it always gets results. Delay is one of the simplest tests and one of the most revealing. You don't need to argue. You don't need to accuse. You just slow things down. Respond late. Postpone the meeting. Take your time and watch what shifts in their energy. Because urgency is rarely pure. When someone is too eager, too pushy, too hungry for a yes, it's not just excitement, it's motive. And when you delay that gratification, true intention rises to the surface like oil on water. Machiavelli understood this. He knew that time reveals what pressure hides. A person who wants what's best for you will not be shaken by patience. But a person who wants something from you will start to rot in the pause. They'll push, they'll prod, they'll get agitated, and eventually they'll try to manipulate. The tactic is subtle. They may guilt trip you for taking too long. They may suddenly flatter you more than usual. Or they may try to flip the script, accuse you of being distant or difficult or cold. But all of that is noise. Their reaction to delay tells you everything about their true level of respect, loyalty, and control. Because real loyalty waits. Real respect does not come with a ticking clock. But manipulation is impatient. It thrives on momentum, on pressure, on speed, because it doesn't want you thinking. It wants you reacting. So when you introduce time, when you slow the tempo, you force the manipulator to expose their core. You give them space to overplay their hand. This is why it works. You're not denying them. You're not rejecting them. You're just not rushing. And that alone is enough to upset the ones who were never here for you only for the outcome they assumed they'd get. Watch how quickly charm turns to frustration, how the understanding friend becomes demanding, how the generous offer suddenly has a deadline. Delay turns performance into truth, because anyone can fake good intentions for a moment. But few can maintain the illusion when it's stretched across time. That's when the mask itches. That's when the cracks form. And that's when the eyes betray the smile. So use time as your weapon. Do not be rushed. Do not be cornered. Create space and let them decide what to do with it. If their intentions were genuine, they'll still be there when you're ready. But if they were here to take, to feed, or to win, they'll grow loud. They'll grow cruel. They'll grow exposed. Delay is not a refusal. It is a mirror, and it always reflects the truth you weren't supposed to see. The surest way to expose a person is to give them power, not just a title or a task, but a chance to lead, a chance to decide, a chance to hold control over something that matters. Then watch what they do with it. This is the third Machiavellian test, and one of the most dangerous, because power does not invent a new personality, it reveals the one that was already hidden beneath politeness. Give someone authority, and their true nature steps forward like a shadow in the torchlight. The insecure will dominate, the weak will hide, the cruel will punish. And the ones who spoke about loyalty the loudest will forget you the fastest. Machiavelli understood that people are only moral when it costs them nothing. It's easy to be kind when you're powerless. It's easy to be generous when you have no control. But the moment you place the crown, even a small one, on someone's head, you see what kind of king they were pretending not to be. This is why the most strategic minds give away power, just for a moment. Not because they trust the other person, but because they want to see the result. Give your friend the chance to make a call without you. Give your partner the freedom to lead something you care about. Step back from a group and see who steps forward. Then watch the tone shift. Watch the ego rise. Watch who rewrites the rules to benefit themselves. This is not betrayal. This is information. Because someone who uses power with restraint, with balance, with loyalty, that's someone you can trust. But someone who weaponizes it, who rewrites the dynamic the moment they feel a breeze of dominance, they were never with you. They were just waiting. And now you know. This is not about being paranoid. It's about refusing to be blind. People don't show you who they are. When you're equal, they show you when they think they're above. And once they believe you've stepped aside, they will often reveal a hunger they never showed before. one that devours credit, control, and even the very hand that lifted them. The test of power is brutal because it strips away performance, and what's left the tone of their voice, the way they speak about you when you're not there, the decisions they make in your name will tell you everything. Do not take back control too quickly. Let them run the stage for a moment. Let them forget they're being watched. And when they do, they'll write their true intentions in bold ink. Power does not change people. It strips them bare. And what you see in that moment is not the mask, it's the face underneath. There is a moment in every relationship when you ask for nothing, and that moment will tell you everything. This is the fourth Machiavellian test, offering no reward, no praise, no benefit, just a quiet need, a small request, a situation that brings them no gain. And then you watch. Because most people are kind when the spotlight is on. Most people are helpful when they know it builds something: reputation, leverage, status. But the real test is what they do when no one is watching, when there is no applause, when the act of helping you serves no purpose but to reveal their true alignment. Ask for something small, something that benefits only you. Not career advancement, not money, not a social favor, just something pure, private, and inconvenient. Then observe their energy. Do they disappear? Do they deflect? Do they offer hollow words or half-hearted help? Or do they rise quietly, without fanfare, and offer exactly what they'd want in return? That is the difference between someone who plays the role of ally and someone who is one. Machiavelli warned against trusting those whose loyalty was tied to benefit, because the moment benefit dries up, so does their commitment. And most people are strategic actors, not true companions. They mirror your needs, your values, your pain, but only so long as it serves them. But when you ask without offering a transaction, the illusion breaks. This is the moment they feel no compulsion to keep the performance alive. And that's when you see what they really think of you. If your value depended on being useful, then your moment of need will disgust them. If your presence was only tolerated because it made them look better, then your weakness will make them withdraw. But if they step forward anyway, if they answer the message, if they show up, if they help you with something that brings them nothing, then you've seen something rare. You've found someone who is not calculating their worth in relation to yours. Someone who sees you not as a tool, not as a pawn, but as a person. And that is where trust begins. But if they fail the test, do not punish them. Just record it. Add it to the pattern. You are no longer seeking words, you are tracking reactions. And reactions in the absence of reward are the most honest ones you'll ever witness. Do not explain this test. Do not warn them. Just create the condition and observe. Loyalty without reward is loyalty that cannot be bought. And anyone who fails this test was never on your side. They were just holding the mirror until the light went out. The purest version of someone is the one they reveal when no one else is listening. This is the fifth Machiavellian test, the test of private opinion. It does not rely on confrontation or trickery. It relies on proximity and silence. You lower your guard, just slightly. You make a comment, casual and quiet. You ask a question, not as a challenge, but as an invitation. And then you watch what leaks out. Because when people believe they are safe, when they think they are off stage, they begin to relax their performance. The careful language slips. The rehearsed empathy fades. And their real perspective about others, about you, about power, love, status, begins to speak without disguise. This is where envy shows its teeth. This is where cruelty takes off its gloves. Not in public, but in the whispered tone, the offhand joke, the little smirk when someone else stumbles. And if you pay attention, you will hear a second voice, beneath the words, a frequency of contempt, of resentment, of competition. Machiavelli knew that character isn't revealed through speeches. It is revealed in how someone speaks when they think the world has turned its back. A person's true alliances, values, and insecurities emerge in private because they believe the mask is no longer required. And yet, it's often in these moments that they reveal the very thing they tried so hard to hide. Maybe it's the way they talk about their closest friend, or how quickly they laugh at someone else's failure. Maybe it's how they describe their ex, or how they speak about people with less power. Whatever it is, believe it. Private speech is where the performance dies. And once someone reveals who they are in your presence, don't sanitize it. Don't explain it away. Don't make excuses for the venom just because it didn't come with a raised voice. Subtle cruelty is still cruelty. Quiet malice is still a confession. These private moments are not accidents. They are the soul speaking freely. And your job is not to correct it, it is to document it. Because the person who speaks with poison about others will one day use your name the same way. The person who smirks at misfortune is already rehearsing how to smile when it's yours. So, listen closely. The test of private opinion is not about what they say when asked. It's what they say unprompted. It's what slips when their guard drops. And in those moments, you're not hearing the voice they give the world, you're hearing the one they give themselves. That's the voice that matters, and that's the one you can trust. Nothing exposes someone faster than your success. Praise them, and they beam. Stay below them, and they're loyal. But rise just slightly, win something, get noticed, earn respect, and suddenly the air shifts. This is the sixth Machiavellian test, the test of competition, not through direct conflict, but through comparison. You place yourself next to them, equal footing, same field, same spotlight, and then you let the stage speak. Because some people only love you when you're losing. As long as you're beneath them, they feel safe, generous, supportive. But once you become a mirror to their insecurity, the mask begins to warp. They'll joke more sharply, compliment you with a sting, withhold support, change the subject. You'll notice it not in one explosion, but in a slow erosion of warmth. Something goes missing. Eye contact, enthusiasm. The subtle ways they once lifted you now pull away, like a tide retreating before the storm. And you realize they never wanted the best for you. They wanted the best from you. Your failure made them feel superior. Your struggle fed their relevance. But your growth threatens the order they depended on. This is why Machiavelli never measured loyalty in words. He measured it in shadows, in the darkness that creeps into someone's eyes when they see you shine. He knew envy doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just goes quiet. So you test them, not by bragging, not by taunting, but by becoming better, by leveling up, by stepping into a light they believed was only theirs. And then you see who claps, you see who shows up, you see who reposts, who celebrates, who stays proud when you no longer need them to hold the ladder. Some will, but many won't, because they were only comfortable when you were behind them. The moment you stand beside them, they flinch. And when you pass them, they vanish, or worse, they sabotage. They plant seeds of doubt in others. They call you lucky, not disciplined. They remind people of your mistakes, not your progress. That is not friendship. That is competition in disguise. And if you're not careful, you'll keep feeding these people, hoping they return the love you imagined. But they won't, because love doesn't wither when you rise. Real allies want to see you become more. They're not threatened by your strength. They're strengthened by it. So test them, grow, elevate, and see who gets smaller in response. You'll learn more in one season of success than in a lifetime of struggle. Because the mask always cracks under the weight of comparison, and the ones who truly support you will never need a spotlight to prove it. Crisis is the blade that slices through performance. This is the seventh Machiavellian test, the test of pressure, fear, and sudden change. When everything is calm, anyone can seem loyal. Anyone can seem kind. But as soon as the world tilts, when money is lost, reputation is threatened, or life simply falls apart, the mask is no longer useful. And what's underneath comes spilling out. Machiavelli never believed in permanent loyalty. He believed in pressure points. Because true allegiance is not tested when everything is going well. It is tested when sacrifice is required, when discomfort hits, when hiding becomes easier than helping. So you watch what they do in the fire, not what they say, but what they choose. When something collapses, do they reach for you or retreat from you? When you lose status, do they look you in the eye, or do they scan the room for someone more valuable? When blame starts flying, do they protect you or position themselves at a safe distance and pretend they never stood beside you at all? Pressure doesn't just reveal character. It reorganizes the hierarchy of your relationships. People you thought would fight for you will disappear, and people you barely noticed might rise. This is not failure. This is data. This is clarity earned through fire. But there's a second half to the test, and it's this. How do they behave when they're under pressure? Do they become cruel? Do they lie? Do they deflect blame, accuse others, play the victim, or crumble into helplessness just to avoid accountability? Or do they remain composed, even when shaking? The mask falls in both directions. People show you who they are when you are at your worst and when they are. It doesn't matter how someone treats you during a celebration. What matters is how they treat you during collapse. Do they vanish? Do they panic? Do they use your vulnerability as leverage? Or do they become still, helpful, protective, sharp? You can't fake calm during chaos. And you can't fake loyalty when it comes with risk. That is what makes the test of crisis so brutal and so necessary. You don't need to create drama to find the truth. Life will bring it eventually. Just remember to pay attention when it does. Because the people who stand beside you in loss, in silence, in uncertainty, they're the ones who pass the test without even knowing it. Everyone loves the crown, but only the real ones stay when the kingdom falls. Most manipulators rehearse their moves. They rely on scripts, familiar patterns of charm, guilt, praise, or deflection. But what happens when you take the script away? What happens when you change the tempo, shift the topic, or interrupt the routine they're comfortable in? This is the Machiavellian test of redirection, and it works because most people can only lie in straight lines. They prepare for the version of you they think they can control. They rehearse how to respond to your anger, how to guilt you after silence, how to pull you back into comfort after conflict. But when you redirect, when you shift the conversation unexpectedly, when you react differently, when you no longer play the role they expect, their mask begins to glitch. You'll notice it in a hesitation, a strange laugh, a sudden defensiveness, because the manipulator is a magician with one trick, and once you change the stage, they lose control of the illusion. Machiavelli understood that control was often mistaken for confidence, but real confidence adapts. Real sincerity doesn't flinch when the narrative changes. Manipulators, on the other hand, need you to stay predictable. They thrive on knowing what you'll say, how you'll respond, and how to twist it in their favor. So when you become unpredictable, when you redirect the energy, you trap them in a corner they didn't rehearse for. Change your tone, Change your question. Bring up something unrelated. Mention a detail they thought you forgot. Or pause just long enough to make them over-explain. These aren't mind games. They're flashlights. Because someone with nothing to hide won't be thrown off by a redirection. They'll follow the shift with clarity. But someone who was playing a role will panic. They'll overreact, underreact, or try to steer the conversation back to their script. Pay attention to what they rush to change, what they try to undo, what they try to laugh off. These are the moments when the truth leaks through. This test doesn't require confrontation. It requires misalignment, a deliberate disruption of rhythm. You let them show you how much of their behavior is genuine and how much was carefully crafted to control your perception. And once you see the glitch, you never forget it. You start to notice the cracks, the micro delays, the way they lean too hard on charm when their words begin to fail. Redirection is powerful because it doesn't attack, it reveals. And in that moment of confusion, the mask slips. Not because you tore it off, but because they didn't know how to keep it on. Boundaries are not walls, they are mirrors. The moment you say no, the truth arrives. Not your truth, but theirs. This is the Machiavellian test of boundary setting, and it never fails. You give someone access, they smile. You give them space, they fill it. You give them help, they praise you. But the second you draw a line, even a small one, the reaction becomes the revelation. Because people who respect you don't punish you for protecting yourself. But people who only tolerated you to extract something will take your boundary as an insult. Machiavelli knew that power does not always come from dominance. Sometimes it comes from refusal. The quiet act of saying, "This is where I stop." The manipulator hates that moment. Not because they love you, but because you're no longer as easy to bend. You've broken the pattern. The hand that once fed them now holds a mirror, and they don't like what they see in it, so they react. Some become passive-aggressive. Their tone changes. Their compliments stop. Others become dramatic, framing your boundary as cruelty. You've changed. I guess I don't matter. These phrases are not sadness. They are control attempts. Emotional bait designed to drag you back into guilt. Because if they can't cross your line, they'll try to move it. And if that fails, they'll try to make you feel bad for building it at all. This is not about sensitivity. This is about entitlement. Boundaries don't offend people who aren't trying to violate them. And that's the entire point of the test. It forces hidden expectations into the open. You learn what someone believes they deserve from you. Attention, time, agreement, access. And the second you deny it, they show their teeth. But here's the truth. Anyone who makes you suffer for protecting your peace was never protecting yours. They were feeding from it. This test is not always loud. Sometimes the betrayal is a slow fade. They stop reaching out. They withdraw warmth. But make no mistake, that is still a reaction. And it's still a confession. You didn't lose them. You lost the illusion that you were safe with them. Machiavelli didn't warn against enemies. He warned against false allies who rot when you stop serving their script. So set your line, calmly, clearly, and do not explain it to death. Because boundaries are not requests, they are revelations. And the ones who truly value you won't need convincing. They'll understand, they'll adjust, they'll stay, not because they were forced to, but because their intentions were real. And now, you finally know. People always think deception is loud, that it comes with shouting, with betrayal, with a dramatic end. But the most dangerous lies are never spoken. They are acted, subtle, consistent, and only visible to those who've learned how to watch. This is the Machiavellian skill. Few possess the ability to see what others reveal without realizing. not by listening harder, but by observing the small fractures between who they pretend to be and what they unconsciously show. The way their smile fades too fast, the tone that sharpens when the spotlight shifts, the delayed response when caught off guard. These are not accidents. These are micro-confessions. Machiavelli didn't trust declarations. He trusted contradictions. A person who claims loyalty but forgets your boundaries. A friend who preaches peace but nurtures conflict. A lover who says they understand you but punishes your honesty. The truth is always present, not in what they claim, but in what they repeat. Because repetition is the signature of the soul. Most manipulators aren't even aware they're leaking information, but their body language twitches when power shifts. Their voice rises when challenged. They say one thing, but their energy bends towards something else. They speak of confidence, yet need validation. They speak of love, yet control. These contradictions are the code, and once you start paying attention, you see the pattern. Not instantly, but in silence, in pauses, in reactions. You start connecting the smile that never reaches the eyes, the compliment wrapped in comparison, the apology followed by a justification. You realize they've been showing you who they are all along, just not in the way you were taught to see. Most people miss it because they're listening for the big betrayal, the grand moment, but Machiavellians know better. The truth isn't one moment. It's a slow bleed, a quiet erosion of trust that begins with a single raised eyebrow, a deflected question, a small withdrawal of effort. So you don't wait for the explosion. You gather data. You document the inconsistencies. You track the shifts in energy, the stories that change, the things they conveniently forget. And over time, a picture forms. One they never intended you to see. You don't need to confront them. You don't need to accuse. You've already won the game they didn't know they were playing. Because clarity is its own form of power. And when someone unknowingly reveals their truth, all you have to do is believe it. There is a kind of vision that doesn't come from eyes. It comes from betrayal, from silence, from sitting in rooms where your name was used and your presence wasn't required. And once you've seen someone's true intentions, not through what they say, but through what they do when they think you're not looking, you develop something rare. You become unreadable, untouchable. Your gaze sharpens. Your movements become deliberate. You no longer react, you recognize. This is the final Machiavellian lesson. That power comes not from being feared or adored, but from being impossible to manipulate. When someone tries their usual tactics on you, flattery, guilt, urgency, pity, and you don't move, don't flinch, don't play along, they begin to sense it. You're not responding like you used to. The smile doesn't work. The apology doesn't land. The pressure falls flat. That's when they get nervous. Because in their world, where perception is control, you've become unreadable. Your silence is now a weapon, your delay, a strategy, your observation, a mirror they never wanted to face. Machiavelli believed that true power was not loud. It was quiet awareness. The ability to know exactly what someone wants and never give it to them. The ability to stand still while they unravel. To withhold your reaction, not out of kindness, but out of calculation. You are no longer the audience to their performance. You're the director, and you decide whether the show continues. This shift doesn't require revenge. It doesn't need a confrontation. It doesn't even need closure. Because once you see someone's core, what they prioritize, how they behave under pressure, how they treat you when you're no longer useful, the game ends. You don't need to announce anything. You don't need to warn them. You just adjust. You become colder where you once chased, more distant where you once overgave. You stop explaining, you stop defending, you stop hoping they'll return to the version they performed, because now, you know, and knowing is enough. The eyes that cannot be lied to are not cruel, they're free. They walk through the world with quiet certainty, immune to charm, immune to chaos, immune to the hunger others try to mask as love. When you reach that point, when you can sit in a room full of smiling faces and know which ones would leave you bleeding, you are no longer a player in someone else's story. You are the author of your own. And that's the moment they realize they can't reach you anymore. Because the test wasn't just for them, it was for you too. And now that you've passed it, the world can no longer lie to you in the same way again. Comment, test passed, if you've seen through someone's mask before. And if you want more brutal truths about human psychology, like and subscribe to Dark Blue Psychology.